that point because it's interesting that you're able to make that assumption at such a young age. Like, now if you was in your 30s and you know what I mean, then you had enough life experience to be like to compare men and being like, how many relationships you been in? Two relationships, but yet you can speak so heavily on the majority of men. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you never even met a lot of the majority of men. You probably met less than 1% of all men, but you felt so confident on saying, you felt so confident saying men are sassy. So we just trying to get to the bottom of the sassiness.
Because,
you know what I'm saying?
Like I said,
because I've been raised to be
my
a
dad
soldier
has friends,
in the gender war.
And I see how they talk. And, he has a large variety of age and friends, and it's like some of them is really sassy. Like, men do gossip. Men are
so you said your father's friends?
No, not my father's friends, but like, in the neighborhood, it's just, it's like, and even going to school, like, men are just, and it's okay to be sassy. If that's who you are, that's who you are. And some girls actually date sassy men. And it's like, okay, that's your choice.
All right, I just want to know. So, like, I know, like, the sassy man is which.
Welcome back to Money, Marriage, and Media. I'm Mike, your host, and today we are looking at Daily Wrap-Up Crew. The question is it accurate to say that men today are not constructed in the same way as men from the past eras? Translation: men today aren't as good as men of the past. And this can go, I've seen this kind of topic before, and I always find it funny because at some point it's going to relate to finances or, men in the family back in the day, they took care of the whole family. The men was the breadwinner. Men today, we're weak. They don't want to do all that stuff. When the reality is that men today make more than any men in history. I'm talking about average men too. So I find it interesting. I think that I don't think men today are weaker than men of the past. I think that we're giving the way things change. Everything is about it's not that much difference with men of today because there are new challenges that require most men to change, and staying the same doesn't work anymore. Like, if you took men from the past and put them in this era, they wouldn't act like they did in the past. They would have to acclimate because it just wouldn't work. But let's keep going to see what we got, right?
How, like, obviously our fathers are built like our fathers and grandfathers.
They sassy.
What's your thoughts on that? No, you sound like you wanted to say something. Like, what happened?
Oh, no, I said they sassy.
Oh, they sassy.
You got an example?
Explain.
You got an example?
What does that mean?
Come back to me.
All right.
I was saying that like, yeah.
They quick to say they sassy, but
So translation, I just wanted to say something to hear my own voice. I didn't really know. I don't know what sassy means when it comes to describing men like that. It's just a way for me to insult men and feel big about myself. Has no backing though.
Never have that's just a trending word. I just want to say, like, you know what I'm saying?
All right, I feel like the way men talk, the way men walk, the way y'all breathe, the way y'all text, the way y'all take pictures, it's just very like
Take pictures.
it's giving one of the girls sometimes.
Niggas is
It is, but it depends on the
breathing.
man. It depends, and I feel like more so in my generation. I'm 22.
Motherfucker got to hold their breath. Like,
I'm 26.
Stop breathing.
How you breathe sassy though? Like,
It's just you do.
Is it?
You know it. You'll know it when you see it.
I just be saying. I
That's what it is,
think
though.
so. You said the men. So give me some examples of the things that men did back in the day compared to what men are not doing today.
I can't tell you about back in the day because I wasn't really
I
alive
was about
back
to get
then.
you.
But
Translation, I have no knowledge on this subject. I just wanted to say it because I feel like you know what this is? I'm a soldier in the gender war. That's what's really going on here. This woman is looking for an excuse to go butt heads with men. So, yep, men are sassy. I can't explain more than that. I just know they are. Because it sounds like because I'm trying to hurt men the way that I think that men today have been hurting women, even though I haven't experienced that much pain in relationships myself, no more than the average person. But I have to keep this going this perception going because it's what I've been trained to do. Not trust men. You see how this works? Again, well, the real answer to this question is we don't, as from a woman's perspective, is I don't trust men because that's what I've been raised to do. So any chance that I can get to bring them down, I have to take it. That's why men are sassy, even though we can't define what that means or give any specifics about how it's affected my personal life. It's just more rhetoric that is used to perpetrate, to keep the gender war going. We got to move past this. I told you guys before that all these relationship topics boil down to 4 things: the way we raise our kids, the vetting process is broken, our concept of marriage needs to be updated, and finances. This is a combination of, it's more so the fact of the way we raise our kids. If we raise our girls in particular in this case not to trust men, including the men in our own in their own families, that the level of distrust has reached that point, then this when you get topics like this where men are sassy. Today men are sassy. And it's like, how? What does that mean? And can you give us some examples? And no, they can't do it. Let's keep going.
I just know, I know seeing my dad being a hard worker, a lot of men don't work hard. Well, from where I'm from. They're really content on where they're at. And
where you from?
I'm from East Harlem.
Okay.
So a lot of boys, I like to call them.
So when a man would hold down the same job for 30 years, isn't he content where he's at? I mean, but men today don't actually do that. You're more likely to change jobs. So again, this is not making, when you start, again, the data shows that you're less likely to stay at the same job for an extended period of time, for decades, right? Most people have a shelf life of a couple of years and then they're going to move on to something else. So when we take that data and apply it to what she just said, her argument starts to fall apart. That makes sense.
Some boys because they're not men, because they don't have men responsibilities.
How old are you again?
Me? 22.
Yeah. 22.
His name Key.
So
no, because that I wanted to make that point because it's interesting that you're able to make that assumption at such a young age. Now if you was in your 30s and you know what I mean, then you had enough life experience to be like to compare men and being like, how many relationships you been in? 2 relationships, but yet you can speak so heavily on the majority of men. You know what I'm saying? You never even met a lot of the majority of men. You probably met less than 1% of all men, but you felt so confident on saying you felt so confident saying men are sassy. So we just trying to get to the bottom of the sassiness.
Because,
you know what I'm saying?
Like I said,
because I've been raised to be
my
a
dad
soldier
has friends,
in the gender war.
And I see how they talk, and he has a large variety of age and friends, and it's like some of them is really sassy. Men do gossip. Men are
so you said your father's friends?
No, not my father's friends, but in the neighborhood, it's just it's
the
like
community.
And even going to school, men are just, and it's okay to be sassy. If that's who you are, that's who you are. And some girls actually date sassy men, and it's like, okay, that's your choice.
All right, I just want to know. So, I know, the sassy man is what y'all don't want, right?
Keep in mind, we still never got a definition of what being sassy is.
But I want to hear.
Some girls do want a man that's sassy.
Okay, but for y'all,
when we say sassy, I think we mean to say, he's very in tune with his femininity.
Okay.
In tune.
All right, so I want to know. Can I hear from you ladies to know what's your ideal man? What kind of man do you want, or what kind of man would it be defined? Yeah. Because I want to understand what man are you deeming sassy. I hear what y'all use an example, but I want to hear an example of what draws your attention. What makes you feel like you're safe with that man? What are you looking for?
How should he breathe?
Yeah, how should he breathe and walk?
I feel like you just
Deep
know.
breaths.
It's not really no recipe to it. You just know.
But you can't.
That sound like a
you
cop
can't-
out.
You got so much.
You really
because-
just know.
If you waiting on that, that's like Eli always saying, women waiting for Sierra's prayer. You gonna wait for this one magician.
You got to know what you're looking
this
for.
mystic air that blows by you, like, oh shit, that's him. That don't work. You gotta have an idea in your mind of what kind of man.
Women today would say Jesus was sassy. I'm convinced. You know what
I
I'm
don't
saying?
think anybody would
Yeah, I would say
say.
just a little bit.
He drinking wine? That nigga sassy.
Turn water into wine. sassy as fuck.
You should have turned that into some vodka. Some Henny,
Exactly.
Damn, man. Jesus
would've
is
been a
sassy.
real
That's
nigga.
crazy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
That's not funny. Jesus was far from sassy. Jesus,
Sorry, Jesus.
Yo,
Oh, you
Jesus.
laughing up
Yo, shout out
there.
to
I ain't
Jesus,
laughing
man.
at y'all.
Jesus stood on what he said, and he was firm on his
What he said?
belief. Anything he said, he stood on it.
He did.
Like, don't do him like that.
He said it with his chest.
Shout out to Mr.
And yeah,
Crazy.
all y'all guys know how to do is lie. Like, honestly, I feel like I'm more of a
what
realer
guys?
nigga than niggas. Like,
That's the problem.
What guys? She's been in 2 relationships. What guys is she talking about? Again, I've been raised to be a soldier in the gender war.
and that's fine. And that's why I'm
It's
single,
not
and I'm
fine.
That's not
okay with
fine,
that.
man.
You
Why?
gonna be single
Because
for a long time thinking like
that's
that.
fine. I
It's
don't need
not
to
fine.
worry.
You just
Hold
said
on.
you said you wanted to be in a
Hold on.
relationship.
I don't need to be
22, she
worried
good.
about a relationship right now.
True.
I
But
need
you
to be
are.
worried about making sure that my life is good and stable. Let's start there.
Facts.
Okay.
I'm 22, so I'm not speaking for all women. Like I said, it all buckles
She
down
gotta
onto
bring
that
something to
one
the table, the
person.
benefit.
I can just tell you what I believe for me. But I know me, my relationship time will come when it comes. I'm not rushing for it.
But when that time come, you can't be feeling like you're a realer nigga than a nigga. That's gonna
but
stop
no.
you from getting in a healthy, a good relationship. That mentality, that mindset, is
No.
gonna be set back.
No.
You're saying no, and I'm telling you
Yeah,
yes.
listen.
Let me ask you a
I'm
question.
telling you no because at the end of the day, I know how to respect a man.
Not if
But
you're thinking you're a realer nigga than him.
Most of the niggas that I've met, I've been more real and been more upfront and honest with them than they have with me.
that's just you.
That's you,
That's,
and
that
that's
ain't a
them.
real
Exactly.
nigga. That's you
But-
just being honest and upfront. Like,
And that's also the nigga.
ain't no nigga out here is like, I'm a realer feminine, like,
I'm a realer bitch than you.
I'm a realer bitch. Ain't no niggas. I don't understand why y'all. I don't understand
You know what
why
it is,
women.
man? Y'all like to take
That's the
things
sassy
too
niggas.
literal.
No, it's not
bro.
literal.
Yes.
As a man, I would never in my life fix
I
my
ain't
lips
gonna
to
comment.
ever say, yo, hold on, y'all. As a man, I would never in my life fix my lips to equate no feminine traits to myself. So the fact that women feel so comfortable saying I'm a more masculine nigga than them niggas, like that's.
But why has it buckled down to that? Because we don't feel
Listen,
protected by our
Listen,
men.
I don't. Me
Poor
personally,
selection.
I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna go find a woman that's in her feminine and who's gonna say I lead in my femininity. If you fixing your lips to say I'm on my DMX shit and where my dogs at, like get the fuck out of my life because I ain't dealing with you and I don't have to work. I don't have to
things build
care
you
about.
up. Some experiences really build you up to have to, especially listen.
I
it gets
don't
really
care
tricky.
because I could never come to you and say I am feminine because I had a single mother. I didn't have fathers. You would never
But
tolerate
you
that shit
wouldn't.
from
You
me.
wouldn't have to say it.
No,
A
time
woman
out.
would just know.
No.
But you would never tolerate that from me, right?
One tolerate it.
You, I
Could I
don't
ever
know.
come up
if
to
we
you-
having a deep if you my man and we having a deep conversation and I ask you,
ready
babe,
to
why
use
you
this?
be acting?
She's just arguing to argue. Because they pointed it out plain as day. Again, I told y'all she's been raised to be a soldier in the gender war. See, none of her all her talking points are based on things that she hasn't experienced. Well, all the men I see are sassy. You're 22 and you've been in 2 relationships. What men are you talking about? Well, the men that my father was hanging around, my father's friends. But then when they pressed her on that, well, no, not those. It's just guys that I see a range of guys. Who are these men? And obviously, you're not old enough to be dating them if they're hanging around your father. The age gap in there, that's not the guy she's trying to date. And you know what? You have to watch out for women. This is why I say we have to do a better job of raising our kids, because this woman has been trained that she's been raised to not to dislike men. It borderlines on hating men, because I think that the things that she says, I think they're a toned down version of what she actually thinks because she's on a podcast. Because a lot of this stuff is not, I would have a hard time, from the things that she said, I would have a hard time believing that she is actually looking for a husband. And again, we're pro-marriage on this channel, right? So this woman, what makes you think, she says she's looking for a relationship. I don't think so. I think she says that because it sounds good. But ultimately, I think that she's just looking to perpetuate the gender war. I think that's what she's trying to do. What has she talked about that indicates that, yes, I'm looking for a relationship? She hasn't said anything like that.
Like
you said if that's your man,
sometimes.
but in order to be your man, he got to approach you with that feminine energy. You're not taking that. You're not taking
on
that.
the first date. You know what?
You really gonna be like, I'm the realest nigga.
You're gonna call him sassy, and you're gonna call him sassy, and you're not gonna give him a chance. It's
That's
simple.
not true.
You dating sassy niggas?
Look, she can't hold herself accountable.
You dating sassy niggas?
I've dated sassy niggas.
You just said some. She said some women will date them. Like you ain't said I would. You ain't said you want to date them.
Make sure y'all
Some
rewind
women
that.
will.
And you one of them?
There you go.
But will you
Will I?
in the future?
I don't know. It depends. It depends on
you
what
happy right now,
in
bro.
what aspects he's sassy, and it depends because there's so many aspects.
And I'm gonna tell you, a real quality man ain't gonna want a woman that's gonna be masculine, that's gonna be living in her nature of saying I'm a realer nigga.
than niggas.
That's all I'm telling you. If you're not ready to date,
But
cool.
yeah,
While
I
you're working
don't
on yourself,
understand.
cool.
I
But
really
when
don't
you are
understand.
ready to date and build and find a good man, those are one of the qualities he is staying
A
away
real
from.
nigga ain't looking for a real nigga. Like, what the fuck? Like, what don't you understand? Like, it is simple.
And that's another point why men are single because a lot.
Translation: she has no knowledge of the male experience. Again, another trait of being raised to be a soldier in the gender war is that what men think is not important. What I want is more important, is the only thing that's important. What that man wants that I'm looking for is irrelevant because he's going to pick me. It's a very selfish attitude, unfortunately.
A lot of women are leading in their masculinity, and men are just like, "Yo, I'd rather stay single if y'all gonna be men." Like, you know what I'm saying? You trying to date no man. Like,
Word. Come
so,
on, man. Yo, embracing femininity is powerful. I promise you, man. I promise you.
Can I answer the question?
Of
So
course.
the men today are nothing like the men back in the days. First of all, we raised in two different generations. A lot of people from back in the days have 2-family households. A lot of people from nowadays have 1-family households. So there's a whole different value that has
One-parent
changed.
household?
Yes.
Okay.
So 1 parent, but a lot of people back in the days before then had two
parents,
parents.
right.
Yeah. But it was rarer for people to have 1 parent. They got sob story. Now a lot of people have single parent households. So people aren't being raised the same. They don't have both the man figure and the female figure to help show them, like, you know what I'm saying, single men being raised by single mothers, or single men raising daughters, you know, and they be a real nigga. You know? Exactly. But still, besides that, like, they're not the same because we don't have chivalry. Chivalry is almost dead. Like, I've only met
Almost, that should go.
Yeah.
That should dead.
I met somebody who could open the door, all of that, but he got too much time on his hands. Why you could call me all day? That means that you don't got no job to go to.
Did he take you out?
Yeah, he did. On his daddy's money.
How you know?
Because I know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He was still able to do it.
Yeah, but regardless.
And he's still opening them doors. Like,
I don't need daddy's chivalry.
I mean,
I need yours.
yo,
I don't need that.
a lot of women don't care where you getting it from, as long as you got it. Like,
Listen, I appreciate somebody who go out and go get it themselves. So when I go out and I go pay these bills, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna go get it myself.
shout out
That's a
to
good
you,
point.
man.
Right, I got benefits. I got my own house, got my own car, got this, that, and the third. You know what I'm saying? I need someone to approach me with similar energy, so that way I know that you used to taking care of what I'm used to taking care of, and that way when I'm down, you know how.
This has what I'm about to say has nothing to do with this young lady talking. We're back to her again, and again, soldier in the gender war. When men start proving points, what do? Go in my shell. I'm gonna look at my phone, even though we're on a we're on a show. See, you got to watch out for women like this. I would say avoid them because, again, this is disrespectful. It's like you're on somebody's platform. You agreed to come on a show that's being shown to hundreds of thousands of people, and you're just gonna play on your phone, knowing the camera's on you. This speaks to the media portion of my channel. Is it's like, who has raised you to be this disrespectful? We have to start paying attention to things like this.
How to hold me up, or when you down, I know how to hold you up. People in different tax brackets can't even understand the same thing because they view money differently.
True.
I don't think like most men in their 20s ain't really got no real money. You know, when I was in my 20s,
True.
I was making probably like $400, $500 every 2 weeks, if that, right?
But you can see the potential.
But
You can see
okay,
potential.
I don't think women are giving young men chance to grow. They're already expecting them to be already developed. You got this. When my son is 21, I'm not really focused on him getting a job. I'm worrying about his mentality, him getting his education. And if he wanted to take a girl out, yes, I am going to throw him the cash. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? So I want you to understand, like, some men maybe ain't got it right now. But if their potential, like you said, he was chivalrous. He opened the door for you. He spoke to you a lot. Those are great qualities. Nice. We don't know how it would have turned out if you wouldn't have been worrying about what his dad did. His dad could have gave him the bread like, yo, she's a nice girl. You like her? Here you go, son. Boom.
No, that's okay.
He in school. He in school again.
No, he's not even in school. I don't know what he's doing all day long. That's the problem.
You gotta ask that though.
What are you doing?
Did you ask that?
No. I already know what he's doing. He done been on 5 other dates this week.
How did he get to the date?
He been on 5 other dates.
Yes, and one of them was with my best friend. I was like, go ahead, best friend, have a good time.
Okay.
I didn't fuck him. I don't care.
Okay.
It's not mine.
All right.
Listen, man, I do agree to an extent. Obviously, men are not, we're not the same. Men are not the same as they were, obviously, back like on our fathers or grandfathers' day. Times have changed, obviously. Back in our I always said back in our grandfather's day, women weren't allowed to work. You know what I mean? So of course the man had to provide everything, including going, paying, taking her out, courting her, things of that nature. Nowadays, women are able to work and they have their own money. The dynamics have changed. So obviously, when we talk about traditional, it still exists, but not everybody can afford traditional.
See, and then again, this is where I disagree with the guys, because this mentality that, well, the man was always the provider, the sole provider, that's a false narrative. For black people in particular, we have always worked. Our women have always worked. Because you think about it, let's just break this down for a second. Because there were traditionally jobs that could only be held by women. Secretaries, waitresses, nurses, teachers. These fields were dominated by women. Maids, child care. Our women have always worked. This is where the tradition is. The only women who were housewives were rich women, and they didn't tend to have dark colored skin. So I think what's happened here is that there was, I don't know if you could consider it whitewashing, because the history hasn't been erased, but we use these blanket statements to say, well, back in the day, the wife didn't work, she was a housewife. No. Most women worked in some form of fashion. It may have been part-time because they still had to come home and take care of the family, kids, household, right? But the vast majority of women who look like me worked. So what does that mean? Well, it just means that the guy was the breadwinner in the family most of the time. But let's keep going.
You get what I'm saying? Most people in America, average salary is about $50K a year. You know what I'm saying? So again, that man might not be able to provide for your family, the kids, the same way my grandfather could, working in a factory, you know what I mean? And he was able to afford 5-6 families. You get what I'm saying? So the inflation has, obviously changed. They say in New York now, 100K is equivalent to 36,000. That's crazy. What the fuck you gonna pay with 36? You could barely support yourself. And that's a great paying job. 100K is a great paying job in today's standards. You get what I'm saying? So again, obviously depends on where you live, but
that's an exaggeration. I mean, I get his point that he's trying to make. But again, I always encourage you guys to do this. Go look up what the average income is in your state. Not the national numbers, because those numbers are skewed. But go look up in your state. I think most of you are going to be surprised what it is. I'll give you a prime example. I live in the great state of Georgia. And in the state of Georgia, the average man makes $37,000 a year. The average woman makes $26,000. So what this tells us is that this whole thing about I'm looking for a guy who can make $100K in a state where the average man makes $37,000. Again, and it doesn't. And let's just keep going, because we're gonna go down the rabbit hole with that one.
obviously men were going to war much more back then. Men were much more hands-on. You know what I mean? So there is, like you said, there's two family households. So you do have a father figure there to teach you certain aspects
two
of
parent households.
Well, I said it wrong.
Two family.
Oh, two parent household. Yeah. So you have a father there to teach you much more traditional or things that are associated with masculinity. So you have those. You
get the balance.
Yeah, you get that balance. Like, but again, some things nowadays when we talk about the word toxic masculinity, it's often things that are traditionally things that men have been known to do. Like, so again, if I say, you know what, I'm gonna pay the bills and I want my woman to stay home and cook and clean. Some women will look at that as toxic masculinity. Like, you get what I'm saying? Because you feel like you're using a woman to be her slave. You get what I'm saying? So that's not how I'm looking at it. Like, I'm a very family oriented person. Like, that's how I want my household to work. If I want to be the leader of my household, some women will look at that as like, we had a woman on a show. She said, "Oh, that's toxic because he wanted to be the leader of his household." Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm be like, "What the fuck?" Like, you get what I'm saying? So again, when men are trying to be masculine, we are getting pushback from some women who are claiming that type of masculinity is toxic, and this is the type of masculinity that's acceptable in our society, which tend to be much more feminine men. Like, you get what I'm saying? So, I do agree that men are not built the same as back in the day.
But I don't see why. I mean, the only different thing is how women have more power to do everything. You get what I'm saying? To not accept that from a man. Like, how are men really changing? We still want the same. We still have the same. Most men have the same traditional values, and most men know we still have to provide. Most men still know we have to protect. I don't really see how men are changing. We're only adjusted to what women want. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you saying the only way I could get respect from a woman is when she doesn't have a job, when she can't provide for herself, when she has to rely on a man, and that's why they want to be so vocal about being independent. And it just and I hate to blame it on women, but it looks that way because I don't really see a big change in men. We only change to what we get from women.
Yeah, I mean, I think women obviously have changed more than men in society because of the advent of feminism and them working and them getting more educated. So obviously the dynamics of a relationship have to adapt. You know what I mean? Like I said, back in the day, women wasn't allowed to work, so that wasn't even an option.
Changed.
Like,
men didn't change.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you're comparing the men from back in the day to the men today, what I'm saying?
It's life. It's not men change, but we both need money. We both need money to pay the bills. So now that I can't pay all the bills, I lose. I'm less of a man. You get what I'm saying? Like, we're still the same guys.
I think he's saying that we adapting basically. Like, I don't know. I think women are setting the pace.
Women have all the control.
Back in the day, there was home cooking.
Well, we're almost there.
And men was going to work, providing. Now they making their own money, and men gotta adapt to them making their own money, having the masculine energy, the attitudes, and all that shit. Like, so men are changing to adapt to that, to the new form of women. You know what I mean? So I think they setting the tone. That's why it's different. Because if they was,
yeah, okay, we get the gist of what Ace is trying to say. But in conclusion, there are a couple things going on here. Is that the biggest is that the way we raise our kids needs to change. We've got to stop raising them to be soldiers in the gender war and not trust the opposite gender. Because doing so, you end up with a lot of rhetoric, like this young lady was saying in the beginning, to where let's go ahead and bring it up, to where this young lady here was saying all this stuff, and the vast majority of it just doesn't apply, because she has no basis for this stuff, but yet she feels so passionate about it. Why? Because it's learned behavior. Even though you can refute it with facts all day, and I don't suggest you do that. It makes for great YouTube content, but you start having these conversations in real life, you, the man, end up losing because all you did was just, you're wasting your breath. Just move on to another one. Now, there were some other things that we need to cover here. The way we raise our kids, okay? This speaks to, why is it that, this young lady made the example about she dated a guy and, what she led with was, well, he ain't got no job and he ain't doing this stuff. And the guy's in his early 20s and his dad paid for the date. Okay. So what she's looking for is a guy he's ready made. Why is that? Because that's what she's been raised to believe, that men just come ready made and you just gotta have to go out there and find one. when the reality is far from the truth. The reality is more like what Jew was saying, is that, yeah, if my son's doing this, oh, she's a good one. Okay, well, here, go ahead and take her. That's more closer to the reality. But see, this is why I say that men, okay, let me back up here for a second. The way we raise our kids, she's been raised to think that, well, no, you can't trust men. You can't trust to build with men. And the reason you get that is because there is no man around to vet potential guys for her. Because this is why I say, the way we raise our kids, the vetting process is broken. Again, you got a combination of two working here. This is how we get these things. This is why we need more nuclear families, because women are terrible at mate selection. This is why they have that standard of they want a guy who's already built, because that's easy. That's an easy standard to set and say, okay, well, he's already built, so everything's going to work out. Not realizing that the man's character matters more than how much money he's making. But women are a poor judge of character because in his 20s, his character's not developed yet. You can only see the beginning phases of it. This is where the vetting process comes into play, because men, particularly older men, the older men in her family are gonna be a better judge of character in a man her own age. Why? Because we've been through that. We've been that old before, and we've learned through those experiences. So see, this tells what the story that she tells me says that she doesn't have anybody who's vetting men for her, because as a father, I'm telling you that if I meet if my daughters bring home a young man, and over several months I can tell that, okay, he does believe he has a chivalrous attitude. He's not making a lot of money right now. What kind of character does he have? And it's not like a snap judgment. This is, again, it takes place over time. I'm gonna say, you know what, I like him because he has good character. He's not making a lot of money, but that can come later. Like, careers are not developed overnight. But as a man, as a father, I have experience and say, okay, I can guide my daughter to say, you know what, the things you need to pay attention to. Okay, where is he going with his life? These are questions that I'm going to ask him. Okay, well, what are you doing with your life? What are your plans? And this is, I put that dad hat on, and then it gives me a lot more discernment with younger men who are potential husbands for my daughters. But again, if that man's not there and all the woman has to go on is, well, he ain't getting no money right now. He's not supposed to be. He's in his early 20s. Jew called it. Most men in their early 20s aren't making a lot of money because he's probably, moved up to one tier in that entry level job to where he's making barely more money than whatever the going minimum wage is. I mean, most guys in their early 20s, they haven't had a chance to it takes time to build up a career. But again, this is why the vetting process is so important, is because having a father or that male member or the male patriarch of your family, get rid of those guys who are just wanting you for sex, especially if you're marriage minded, becomes so important. So, yeah, but that's it, man. We're gonna wrap this one up. It's a lot of rhetoric in here that's maintaining the gender war. A lot of it came from this young lady, but some of it came from the guys too. That mentality that back in the day, was better because men were providers, and that's what I'm looking for today. That preference is based on something that wasn't a reality for most people. So we got some delusion on the women's side, we got some delusion on the men's side. The whole point of, especially from my channel, is for average people to create more nuclear families. But again, the gender war is dumb. We got to start breaking these topics down and get to the root of these things if we're ever going to move past them. Because if we don't, then nothing's going to change, and we're just going to stay in the gender war, and our community will stay the way it is, broken. But guys, again, this is a high level conversation because we had to peel back some layers here to get to the actual topic so we can start breaking these things down and moving forward. But if you're new here, like the video. If you've been here for a while, like the video. Guys, I'm gonna stay ghost to the next time. Peace.